in order for there to be, we're going back to this law of polarity, in order for there to be a self-preservation of mankind, in order they may evolve, there has to be the challenge of the threat of death, which means that death shows you to live, and life brings a perspective of death. They work together. So when the storm comes, you got decisions to make. Whoa. Welcome you guys to the More Podcast. We're on that episode 9. This is your host, JB Stewart, the More Podcast. The podcast is all about helping you tap into that human potential so that you can bring out the more that's already within you. This episode is going to be awesome. But before we get into it, you understand that as you're watching, one must touch the subscribe button with the clicking icon and tap, and right to the right of that wonderful subscribe button, there's a notification bell. I need you to press that for everything that drops because Increased Fruit has to touch millions and help so many families around the world. That's what we put out, so that's what has to come back. In order for that to happen, you guys got to resonate with the actions because we're in here. We're in here. And you know how we start every episode off. This is how we start our mornings off with an affirmation. Here's the affirmation today. The affirmation today is this. I am redefining every tragedy in my life to tell a tale of me evolving. I am redefining every tragedy within my life to tell a tale of me evolving. I am redefining every tragedy in my life to tell a tale of me evolving. And the significance of this affirmation is what we're going to be talking about today. Optimism. We're going to call this episode, instead of crying in the rain, dancing it. Optimism. Let's go to affirmation again because I want you to say it with me. I am redefining every tragedy within my life to tell a tale of me evolving. And it goes with what we like to say here. What doesn't break you makes you. See, life and nature has this strange thing happening. There's a bunch of things that want you dead. If you go out in the wilderness, there's some things that's going to want your guts. In a competitive landscape of human beings, it's as if your enemies want your guts. And then there's a rule called self-preservation. This means that you have to take your survival instinct, your instinct to thrive, and allow that to meet a challenge in order that you may evolve and become greater than your challenges. Life has this strange thing. It expects you to evolve and adapt, or it takes you out of the equation because life is looking to continue to be in a cycle, in this reincarnation, to adapt and evolve. That's the affirmation, and I think it'd be helpful for you to say that to yourself on a daily basis. Like, for real, I'm redefining my tragedies, and instead, I'm telling myself a tale of how I evolved. I mean, in the midst of what I'm going through, I'm reminding myself of how I overcame, and as a result, how it's shaped and molded me to be a better person. Proper motivation, especially within difficult times where perspective is what we're fighting for. Let's get into segment 2, which I love to call Gold is Better Shared. Because if you leave them gold nuggets within that cave, it ain't gonna benefit nobody. But you refine that thing and you give it to someone as a gift. Well, they resonate with your adoration for them. Understand what I'm saying? Today's episode, instead of crying in the rain, Dance in it. Optimism. When life gave me lemons, what I did was I took the lemon and I made icebox pie, and it was amazing. Oh, not only I took the lemon and made icebox pie, I took the lemon and I used it as a cleanser. It was amazing. And I took the lemon and I made oils out of it, and it became a beautiful fragrance. I tapped into my resourcefulness as a person and met the challenge. When life throws to you tragedy, when you're in the storm, go and think of the solution within the eye of the hurricane. This means in times of stress, be on the side of figuring it out. And that's highly possible. Here's why. The law is called polarity, which means that every situation, there's a upside and a downside. Oh, and here's the other thing. The upside and the downside are the same situations. They exist together within each other. There's no hot without cold. And if it's cold, it's only because it's in contrast to what is hot. And that's the only reason it's noticeable. And if it's hot and it's in contrast to what is cold, and that's the only reason it is even noticeable. Because one reflects the other. So it is with up and down. And if there weren't the two, there wouldn't be a sense of standing in position. Because all things exist within a polarity, a positive and negative energy or image. Everything. So this means in every situation, there's a perspective to choose or a way to view the situation. And optimism has a rap for being naive and foolish by those who are considered themselves realists. Shout out to all my realists out there. Yay. Peace to y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Here's the downfall of being a realist without understanding polarity. The downfall about being a realist without understanding polarity is you prepare yourself for the worst. And you believe that the worst is real. Often, a lot of realists consider that. They're so emotionally invested in risk management or avoiding risk of any sort that they forget reward. And they're emotionally invested in images of what could go wrong or what could not be beneficial. That could be a problem. That'll definitely take your sense of direction in your life. Here's the problem with being super optimistic. You think everything will work, and you forget that life challenges for you to evolve. So you're not on your P's and Q's, and you don't come ready for war in order to take it to the next level, because you got to be ready for war, because war is going to come. It's a part of the story, right? In order for there to be, and we're going back to this law of polarity, in order for there to be a self-preservation of mankind, in order they may evolve, there has to be the challenge of the threat of death, which means that death shows you to live, and life brings a perspective of death. They work together. So when the storm comes, you got decisions to make. This is the underlying ultimate factor. This is the ability to respond that has been given to the individual. Responsibility is the ability to respond. To be responsible in your tragedies You must decide your responses. And it makes sense to be optimistic because that desires push you forward as a being. Say it again. Instead of crying in the rain, dance in the rain. Because it makes a wonderful experience and that could be heck of fun. Talking about optimism. Again, I would say it makes sense and it's wise to be optimistic. All right, I want to go back to the law of polarity. In every situation, there's an upside and a downside. The benefit of choosing the upside, which is about perspective, is it propels you towards your solutions. Because in optimism, there's elevated desire and excitement of the possibilities, of the potential that I am. You are that potential. And upon identifying with this potential and seeing these new possibilities, you can then refocus your mind to your solutions as opposed to having your mind captivated by your problems. Pessimism often breeds stagnation and resistance because the negative is the death. It is the stagnation. It is the resistance. It is the factor that slows it down so that life doesn't accelerate too fast, right? And just like run itself out of existence. But choosing the positive propels you forward. And that is in a state of optimism, which is tied to gratitude. And being optimistic is being grateful that you can always respond in a way that propels you forward, even in what seems to be the most hopeless, dire situations. You can always think a thought that propels you forward while you're in a dark cave and you don't know your next step, as opposed to sitting and squalling within one's own misery. You should take a step forward because life does this other interesting thing. Unless you take a step forward, you don't know your next steps. I see people stuck in bad relationships, and especially like in the latter years, it's not working out, and they'll stay because they're afraid maybe nothing else would show up. I see people stuck in jobs that they hate, and they've sold their duty to themselves to discover themselves and really live out their purpose because they're afraid, what if I not get anything better? And they will spend years upon years surveying the landscape to look for a solution before ever taking a step. The rule of thumb is you have to take a step in order to know your next steps. And being optimistic is taking a step forward, as opposed to sitting and crying in the rain and being overcome by the rain. Dance in the rain and get your footing so that you can know what is solid ground in this seeping landscape. Optimism is wisdom, not naive. It's wise because it's the positive within the domain of darkness. All right, you don't even have to know all the answers to be optimistic. You don't have to be calculated to be optimistic. You be in good faith. How often in human history have we not known what to do, but we've been in good faith and goodwill towards each other? And when we've lost good faith and goodwill towards each other, with even libraries of wisdom and nations of technologies, we've come to the brink to destroy ourselves. Cold War. We had everything to prepare civilization and everything to destroy ourselves. However, because of pessimism, because of fear that we would lose our ability to preserve our lives, we've sided with the negative for death, and we embodied death so much that we was willing to blow up the whole world in nuclear war, as opposed to identifying with the light, the positive, so much that we use all of our technology and eliminate, what is it? What is that disease? Malaria. Something start with a P. Polaroid. Well, forget it. Y'all just text me in a comment whatever disease I'm talking about. It's important. Optimism is wisdom. Instead of crying in the rain, dance in the rain, and take your steps so you can know your next steps and get your footing. Now, guys, segment 3, application. It's not good enough to just know. We got to do. We got to be in application. Knowledge is knowledge in the mind, but it becomes wisdom within the experience. You got to live it so that it can resonate with you and evolve you. And here's an application on how to be more optimistic when you desire to be more optimistic. Take everything that makes you afraid and affirm it with faith. It's a wonderful application. If a thought illuminates in your mind that causes your body to be tense or stressful, mindfully look at the thought and reaffirm that thought with the positive faith factor. How does it work? An example, you ever wanted to take on a task and the pressing question came to your mind, well, how am I going to do that? Or what if this happens? What if that happens? And that energy, that thought could be paralyzing to you. And it could bring you on the side of the negative and pessimism and slow you down, because the negative slows it down. You need it to pull back to keep balance. Or instead, what you can do is you can take that question very literally with the optimism. And instead of saying how I, causing you to feel like you're stuck, you can say how I, and begin to study and become excited and fascinated with figuring it out. You can take all those what ifs and really find out what if. And begin to have a healthy marriage with the unknown. That's all I got to say today. I want to thank y'all for watching. Use the affirmation this week. And it says, I'm redefining every tragedy to tell a tale of me evolving. I'm redefining every tragedy to tell a tale for me evolving. Thank y'all for watching the More Podcast, Increase Fruit. Goal is to touch 1 million and impact families all around the world to really help people develop in their human potential and bring out the more within you. Whatever. Peace to y'all. Y'all be blessed. Who are you really? I am potential. Yes, sir.